Omo, things can happen in a blink of an eye to change the entire course of your life. You can have your life all mapped out, all planned out, but God always comes in different ways to tell you that, here, my daughter, I know you got this plan, but I got the perfect plan. I have the final say. And that was how it happened to me. Omo, just when we thought we had planned our life, just when we thought we had planned our schedule, just when we thought we were on course, just when we were counting down 1 month to our wedding, the worst happened. So I had gone to Enugu. I was excited. It was August. We had planned that, okay, I will come to Enugu to collect our invitation card, and I would go back to give my people their own, and then we'll start inviting our guests. We kept our engagement a secret. So as at August in our head, when we start giving out our invitation card, people can get to know. As at this time, of course, we had already gone far with our preparation. So I traveled to Enugu to collect our invitation card. I came in like today. My father-in-law, of course, was on a sick bed. And this time when I saw him, my heart bled. I knew that God really needed to come through. I was scared. Of course, because of the location thing I spoke of in my last video. I had thought that my wedding should hold at Asaba. So of course, my father-in-law was supposed to be in Asaba. He's supposed to be in Asaba with us. It meant everything to my husband. He's the first son. Yes, of course, he has an elder sister above him, but he's the first son, which makes him the diokpa of the house. So it would have meant a lot to him to have his father at our wedding. But I came to Enugu and I saw my father-in-law. Like, he had deteriorated a lot, and I was scared, but I was still hopeful. The family was hopeful, so everybody was hopeful for the best. We're praying for the best. And then 2 days later, they took him to the hospital for checkup, and they came back to the house the very next morning. It happened. We were sleeping when we heard a loud cry from downstairs. My husband quickly opened the door and ran downstairs. I followed at his back. And we got to the source of the noise, the source of the sound, the source of the shouts. Lo and behold, my father-in-law had passed on. I had connected with him. I knew the very first time I had seen him, I got to see him. I knew how much he accepted me. I really valued him, and I knew the impact he had in my husband's life. So that's at that moment I was confused, to say the least. Like, I saw myself crying, a lot of thoughts running through my head. I mean, it was 1 month to my wedding. It could I've just stayed 1 more month for the wedding. What if we had brought it forward? What if we had done it sooner? A lot of questions were playing in my head. I did not know how to feel about what has just happened. My husband was being the bigger person, trying to organize everything, trying to make sure that okay, his body was taken to the mortuary and stuff like that. We, the women, were thrown into tears and confusion. I was the daughter-in-law. I was as confused and devastated as I was. I didn't even want to know what his daughters were actually feeling as at that time. After all said and done, God actually has the final say. We had committed everything to the hands of God. We had put our wedding in God's hands. We had asked him to take control. Why then did this happen? That was the question. I couldn't understand it. So we were thrown into mourning just 1 month to my wedding. And the devil, as I said, did what he knew how to do best, tried to, run things. But God was bigger than him, and somehow we overcame that part. But there are lessons I learned from that experience. Prior to that time, I saw my husband's family as my husband's family. Yes, they were my family, but prior to that time, it was just on the surface thoughts that okay, these were my family. But after that incident, I really had to understand that if I was going to be married to this family, these had to be my family in all the sense of the word. They had, how will I put it now? It had concepts for me to come to terms with. But I eventually got to understand that okay, I had a bigger purpose other than I'm getting married to this man. This was going to be my family. So the next lesson I learned was the fact that I no longer have a life of my own. Like my life was now intertwined with that of my husband. I necessarily needed to feel whatever it is it was feeling as at that time. Normally as a person, I have this separationist kind of mentality about issues and stuff. I'm one person that doesn't necessarily know how to handle pain, how to handle rejection or whatever. Like I have this big wall I built around myself that if there is one special turbulence that is coming, I'll just go into that place and put myself and extricate myself from the world, and then when everything gets better, I'll come out and then peep like okay, everything not clear, and then I come out again from my shell. Yeah, so that I feel like that was my coping mechanism for a lot of things I had to go through in life. But right now I needed to necessarily trust my guards, trust the family I was entering enough to let my guards down and let myself feel things and let myself feel pain and let myself go through whatever it was they were going through. I couldn't just make any decision that had a me tag in it. It had to be a we tag. Like everything I was doing, I necessarily needed to put my husband inside. It was acting all tough, and I never saw tears for one day in his eye why this whole thing was going on. But I necessarily needed to know that this man was hurting. But I didn't actually know how to connect to the scenario, how to connect to him, how to get through to him. Like, I'm one person that likes attention, and in that moment, I necessarily needed to give attention to him, and I didn't know how to act, how to do that. I know how to give love when you give me. I'm this kind of person, you do me, I do you. So now having to be the one to be giving and giving and giving, even when the other person doesn't like, he is saying it, but it was not, it was not in the mental frame to appreciate it. So it was a lot. Another lesson I learned from this whole thing and the whole situation was the fact that my family was now his family. You know, before I used to say, okay, now the one before be this, now my family, one woman, I be this one, you know. But right now, I necessarily needed to understand that whatever his family was feeling is what my family necessarily had to feel. And my father made it a point of call to always check up on his siblings and his family to make sure that, okay, these people are all right. My father basically just knew what to do, whereas me, I was kind of lost. I was learning in the process, and I'm thankful to the family, my husband's family, for actually being gracious enough to allow me grow into my role as the wife of their first son, because I feel like I am a very, very childish person. I don't really know what to do, how to act and stuff like that, but I was learning, and I was grateful that they were giving me the chance to grow into my role, you know. And yeah, so another lesson I also learned from the whole experience was the fact that I actually have known that, but this whole situation just made it very clear. It's an engagement. An engagement could actually go both ways. It could go to, okay, we finally got married, and it could go to, okay, it no happen again. Yeah, and this situation tested our resolve. It tested our faith. It tested our life. It tested our hope. It tested everything we held dear. This situation was that solid to test everything. It tested even me, my person, my life, everything I had learned, you know. But that is why I keep saying, like, the fact that we were matured enough to understand that this was not a physical engagement, it was more of a spiritual engagement, enough to put God in the center. So and God actually proved himself in the whole situation, because I've seen situations when the whole thing went south, you know. After a while, this whole situation with my father-in-law, the fact that he died, necessarily meant that we had to shift the wedding. We shifted the wedding naturally to November 13th, which is my husband's birthday, and which was the date my husband was initially gunning for. So when the whole thing just happened, it was just natural for us to shift it to that date. And when we shifted it to that date, we found out that we had two more weddings for that same date at the same venue, you know. And the next thing that was running to our mind was, okay, should we shift it to 20th? We got to 20th and we found more weddings, and for some persons, you will not be like looking for a space that is perfect, is okay, is one thing, and before you know it, 1 year don't pass. Now still they do, okay, we still they prepare for wedding, and sometimes it can just pass from there turn to voicemail. So I feel like that was the reason why we put our physical wants of wanting to make noise about our wedding and made the spiritual aspects more pronounced in our life. Yeah, so those were the lessons I learned from the experience. If you're engaged, yeah, yes, there's a natural urge to be all loud about it, but don't forget to put God, because I'm very, very sure if we hadn't put God, when we put God in this whole situation, things would have really gone south for us. So yeah, so if you've had any of this kind of experience, if you can relate to whatever it is, all these stories I've talked about and stuff, please do well to drop your comments in the comment section. I would love to hear your part of the story. I would love to hear read your experiences. I would love to relate with you. I mean, we are building a family here. And yes, of course, I know I haven't introduced myself. My name is Josephine Kenechi, and you're welcome to my channel. I hope you stay. Like, this is a very safe haven for you to stay. Subscribe to the channel, of course. Give us a thumbs up, like this video, of course. Share. People could be going through things like this. I had to go through it firsthand to know how this whole thing is. So you could be helping somebody by sharing this video. And of course, I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for seeing. Bye.